Hello and welcome back. This is part 2 of the network services from the network series. In the previous video, we configured DHCP service from a Cisco router, and we were doing Cisco 1841. You can use any other router, but this is in the lab. So we provided IP addresses to those devices using DHCP service from here. And there is a server in the data center. The IP address is 10.3.3.100, but we're going to name that server test page, or we can just call it test.local, test.com, whatever name you have. But I need that name, users to use the name instead of the IP address. If I have multiple servers, users won't be able to remember IP addresses. So what we need to do is to provide the DNS service. And for that to happen, we need a DNS server. So the DNS server is going to be used from here. So I'm going to use a server from here and drop it there and then expand it. I'm minimizing because my recording software is getting off the way. So we have a server over here, and let's call this one DNS. And that DNS is going to be 20.1.1.100. That's what we've configured on the DHCP pool. So if you go back to the router and if you go to the running config, here we have subnets here. If you see, there's a subnet we're providing here from VLAN 20 and then VLAN 10, but all of them, they provide that DNS server, and that DNS server is the one we're going to configure here. When clients receive the DHCP configuration, they will receive DNS server IP address as well. So we need to equip this DNS server with the naming all the IP addresses and their names. So we have to, this software allows you these services over here, and if you click on the DNS, then you can enable it and then add the list of the A record IP version 4 name to IP mapping. So let's call test.local. That's one device. Its IP is 10.3.3.100, and we add. We also have router 1, it doesn't matter, small letters, capital letters, they're all the same, 01. And if you see router 1 here, router 1, it has one interface with an IP, another interface with another IP. You can use any of them. So let me use the internal one, which is 10.1.1.1, and we add that. We also have router 2. So router 2 is the one in here, and we can use the serial, we can use the fast Ethernet. The serial was the connectivity between, so we can check the IP, and then either one you can use. So let's say enable show IP interface brief. If you do that, maybe expand the window a bit, so you can use that IP from the fast Ethernet or this IP from the serial, either one. So let's use one of them. We go back to our DNS server, and the DNS server, we say router 2 has this IP 10.3.3.1. we're using the fast Ethernet. If you like, use the other one as well. We've got PC1, PC2, but clients, it makes no sense to add DNS server for clients. Servers, routers, firewalls, all these things, the switches. Let's add one switch. And here we have a switch 1, and that switch 1 is our core or distribution. So let's call it switch 1. Switch 1. And it doesn't have any IP. If you have IP configured for that, then you can add. We didn't configure any IP for the switches, so let's leave this for now. The DNS service is enabled. We created a list of devices, and the IP for this device is what was configured, 20.1.1.100. And this default gateway will be, of course, the router that's connected to. This router here, it has the sub interface for that subnet, VLAN 20. We have done that in the inter-VLAN routing. And then that default route was 10.1.1. And the DNS server, you might be asking, this is the DNS server. Where will it get the DNS naming? If it has to check itself, then you get the local IP, the loopback IP address. If you provide that IP, same, but it has to go out, come back. It won't be able to check the local name. So this is another topic to discuss that, but you want this server to use its service or the DNS service locally, and say, okay, before I go out, I need to check my DNS service and check the name mapping. So you will provide the loopback IP. Try the IP address and see what happens. Now we have a DNS server that's built. Somebody from your infrastructure team prepared the DNS server, they configured it, they gave an IP, they enabled DNS service, they added the records, and now it's racked up, it's in your racks, and then you need to connect it to the network. So a server connecting to a switch is fast Ethernet when we're using software like this, but of course if you have fiber optic cable, you will be using that as well. So straight through, let's maximize this, a straight through cable from the fast Ethernet connecting to the switch. And yes, before you connect, you know that a switch has two VLANs, VLAN 10 and VLAN 20. This DNS server is in VLAN 20, and you need to make sure you're connecting it to the correct interface. So let's cancel the cable and let's check the switch. I remember from 2 to 10 it's VLAN 10, 11 to 20 is VLAN 20. So let's check again, and if we check the configuration, go to CLI, and if we do, you can do it two ways. Either you say show VLAN brief, and it tells you for CCTV VLAN, which is VLAN 10, that's active, and the ports here, see the port, it is FO2 all the way to 10. Those 10 interfaces, 9 interfaces are connected to CCTV VLAN 10, but for 20, then you have those interfaces. So it's starting from 11 to 20. So that's what I thought. Let's say we have the cable, and this is VLAN 20, 20.1. We connected starting from 11, it's already connected, so 12. And that we can speed up, and the IP is there. Now, if I go to this client, it has this DNS configuration from the DHCP server. The DHCP server, which was this router, it provided an IP, subnet mask, the default gateway, as well as the DNS server. If that's the case, and I know the server there, 10.3.3.100 is test.local, I can just use the DNS name instead of using an IP. You can try both. IP, of course, we can reach, but we are testing if the DNS server is being used. So let's say test.local and then enter, and then wait if that page actually appears. You should have a route to the destination for that to happen. Okay, so we're waiting for that to respond. What this PC is doing is, and check the IP. Yeah, it took a bit of a time. The PC is doing, the first thing it does is, I need an IP. After a machine is booted, the first thing it does is DHCP request. Then if there's a DHCP server and there's no firewall blocking that, then the DHCP server will respond. And in the configuration of the DHCP server, we have an exclusion list starting from 1 all the way to 10 from this subnet, and that subnet starting from 1 all the way to 10 you exclude, you don't give through through DHCP service. Then you create the pool. For this VLAN, we said your network is this and your subnet mask is that. Your default router is this and your DNS service is this. So that DNS IP is actually given from this pool. When a client connects to the network, it gets that service. The DHCP provides all this. It gets an IP, DNS information, default gateway. Then the DNS server is there, even though it's a different area of the building. But these machines will try and figure out where the test local is. It says, can I get this name service to translate from test.local? So what it does that, after that, it gets a response from the DNS server. DNS server will say, okay, that test.local is actually 10.3.3.100. And then it asks if it is default gateway. It says, hello default gateway, which is 20.1.1.1, which is that router. Can you get me to that subnet? 20.1.1.100 is the IP I'm after. The router checks the default the routing table. It says, do I know how to reach that? It checks the routing table, and then it says show IP route, and it says, can I understand where that is? And it says yes, it's statically configured through that router. And now it forwards the traffic to here, and then it goes to this destination. The destination response comes back to the router. Router knows how to respond back, and then the response comes to here. That's how you get a network with DHCP, DNS, and routing in place. So if you are following the inter-VLAN routing videos, 4 parts, and then the DHCP, the first part, and the DNS, which is this part, then you should be able to construct a working network, a simple network that's fully working. So thank you again for your time, and see you in other videos.